I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This commission acts in review and recommending capacity for comprehensive plan amendments, text amendments to the Charleston County zoning and land development regulations, ordinance rezonings, and plan developments. The commission has decision-making authority on road name change requests, public project reviews, appeals of administration decisions on final plats and subdivision matters, as well as other matters pursuant to Chapter 29, Title 6, Section 6-29-340 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina as amended. If you wish to speak at today's meeting, you should have already signed in to the sheets that we had at the door. Please fill out the sign-in sheet. Okay. I'm Cindy Floyd. I'm the chair of the commission. To my right is Pete Pilatus, Luke Morris, and is Marlena? Marlena's absent. And Adam McConnell. To my left, David Kent, Warwick Jones, Logan Davis, and Susan Cox. Also seated to my right, Attorney Mark Bell, and seated to my left, Joel Evans, Director of Zoning and Planning. And Zoel, would you please introduce the staff that are present?
Sure. Andrea Melisick, the Deputy Director of the Planning and Zoning Department. Marche Miller is here, as well as Monica Eustace. Emily Piggott was at the, there she is. I was going to say was at the front doing sign-ins, but now you moved up here. Yep. And we also have in the audience Grayson, and Grayson's brand new. And Grayson, I've forgotten your last name. Anderson, thank you. Welcome. And we also have Kyle, and I know your last name, but Foster, right? Yep. If they're not written down, I don't know it sometimes. So, yep. Kyle Foster, who's our arborist, and Grayson Anderson, he's helping Sally with site plan review.
Okay.
Oh, there's also, sorry, I missed out. Tamara Avery over here. She'll be doing the subdivision stuff. And Matthew Husband, who works with Tamara on subdivision. Also, Walt Smalls is here. And Devery DeToma with Public Works is here as well, if you have questions about the tree ordinance.
Okay, I would like to remind you that in order to get a good recording of the meeting for the minutes, please speak loudly and clearly into your microphones, and please do not talk over one another. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from December 11th, 2023. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Logan Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Marlena Davis. Oh, she's not here. Chair Floyd.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner Kent.
Aye.
Commissioner McConnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Morris.
Aye.
Vice Chair Pilatos.
Aye.
And Commissioner Cox.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
The next agenda item is a review of the changes of the proposed ZLDR text amendments related to proposed exemptions from the ZLDR tree protection and preservation requirements for Charleston County Public Works and the South Carolina Department of Transportation initiated projects.
Marche Miller's going to
Okay.
present.
It's glitch day.
Okay, so what we have before us is the amendments proposed with revisions from County Council.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Before us are the exemptions for county-initiated projects that are being brought back before you from County Council, with County Council revisions.
Yeah, so everything that you see in the blue text That's the newer language. Anything that's stricken through, whether it's got a color to it or it's in the black text, is proposed to be removed. If you recall, what's in the red text that's stricken through was what was previously presented to the Planning Commission at 2 meetings ago. Anything in the black text is what exists in the zoning ordinance today. So basically, there's been a rewrite of the SCDOT exemptions, and this exemption is, and the wording of it is based on litigation that the county entered into with DOT about exemptions for DOT, and this is the language that was approved to reflect that court order, basically, for what describes what is DOT is exempt from as far as local governments for trees. And that number 4, A, B, C, D, and E, that is the language that was agreed upon and reviewed by Public Works as to the exemptions that would follow. Instead of trees going to the Board of Zoning Appeals, they would go to County Council for approval when there's a county road project. The changes basically reflect the exemptions that Public Works already had in the previous ordinance. If you want to scroll up and see in the black text, Public Works was exempt from the tree ordinance for all grand trees other than live oak species and proposed right-of-ways. And so this language in blue still reflects that. And also, too, it talks about going through the limited site plan review process, and it does retain the all trees 6 inches or greater on scenic highways that will have to go to the County Council for approval rather than the Board of Zoning Appeals. So it basically takes everything that would go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and put that in the hands of County Council when there's a road project or a drainage project being presented.
Is there going to be a presentation?
That is the presentation. I mean, there's nothing else. Yeah.
But Public Works is here to answer any
Oh, yeah. We have a representative from Public Works to answer any specific questions if you have for that. Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion and a second for discussion only?
For approval? Second. For discussion, yes.
All right.
Move for discussion.
Yes, there's been a first and a second. Yes.
All right. Do we need to go put a bit public comments first? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We will now hear public comment. And the speakers are.
Oh, no, this is for the zoning ordinance, yes.
Okay. John Zolgar. Tell us your name and address, please. You know the drill.
John Zlogar, 5528 Frisco Lane, Johns Island, representing the Johns Island Task Force. There's been a lot of changes, as Mr. Evans mentioned up there, but there's two things that remain. The first is that the trees, in terms of mitigation, right now, the requirement is that they shall be planted in the same general area or be paid into a tree fund. Right now, the change that's up there is that they only have to be paid into a tree fund. So the recommendation that the task force has is that we basically acquire Public Works to the greatest extent possible to place them nearby, and also have a mitigation plan that they present to County Council. So that we certainly understand there are times that trees are going to have to be cut down, but I think the public needs to understand what the mitigation plan is and not just arbitrarily say they all go to a tree fund. I mean, for example, I don't think anybody if you all do something on 41 in Mount Pleasant, tree mitigation shouldn't be on Johns Island, and vice versa. If there's tree mitigation to be done for a road project in Johns Island, it shouldn't go to Allendale. Really, we need to keep things close by. So that's the first change. The second change is that, as Mr. Evans mentioned, basically it's taking the approval process from BZA to county council. But there's a lot of things that are happening in the BZA beyond just approval process. One of the things is that currently the documentation in terms of the site plans and all the other information is available at least a week ahead of time. There's no requirement for that to happen with county council. They could just have it available that day. And the other thing is that, what is it, county council? BZA allows an unlimited, just like planning commission, unlimited number of people to speak. At the county council, it's limited to 15, and there could be 20 things on the topic, and so there may only be 1 or 2 people that can actually speak. So the recommendation there is that require that the Public Works present a mitigation plan, site plans in terms of what they plan to do to the public at least 1 week ahead of time, reasonable, and that the county council have a public hearing, not just public comment period, but actually a public hearing. So those 2 things, with those 4 things, basically what you're doing is not only, it's equivalent to what's happening now, it's just going from the BZA to the county council. As it's written now, that's not the case at all. So if the intent is to make it like BZA, but the county council does it, then I think I'd recommend that you actually make those changes. Thank you very much.
Lee Bundrich. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, Bundrick, yeah.
Tell us your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Lee Bundrick. I live at 1524 Clarkstown Circle, and I'm here in my capacity as the Senior Conservation Coordinator with the Kiowa Conservancy. To kind of mirror some of the same things that Mr. Zalogar was stating, we have some concerns about Section 4D and 4E that are being proposed here, and that relates to the mitigation requirements. And as he mentioned, that it goes into a tree fund, and that can essentially be used to mitigate any remove trees from a project to anywhere in Charleston County. But it is in our opinion that it should be located, the mitigation requirement should be that the mitigation occurs within the same locale that these projects occur in. And that the reason why is because a lot of these net benefits that are provided by this natural resources, which is the trees, which provide a lot of stormwater abatement. It provides a lot of buffering from storm actions, as well as some other benefits that are provided by humans, by these things to humans and wildlife, that we do not have a net loss of these benefits within a specific locale, and that a mitigation that requires a replacement of those trees anywhere as possible with these removals would be needed. And it's for these reasons that we see that the rejection of these proposed amendments and the inclusion of these mitigation requirements that require it to be replaced in a locale is needed. This is all we have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Kershaw.
We're back again. My name is Susan Kershaw. I live at 3605 Berry Hill Road on Johns Island. So the proposed ZLDR amendments are all about our scenic highways and our live oak grand trees. Charleston County Public Works, as you said, already has the exemption needed to take down all other trees, including that non-live oak grand trees, with just administrative zoning approval and mitigation. Currently, they need to go to BZA to remove trees along our scenic highways and to remove live oak grand trees along our roads and drainage works. The proposed amendment will allow Public Works to avoid BZA and to remove these trees with only the approval of County Council. It is several members of County Council who are pushing this change, and they have not shared the criteria they will use to make these decisions. What live oak grand trees beside our roads does County Council want to take down? Which scenic highways does County Council want to make not very scenic? These amendments will leave the beauty of our scenic highways, Bohicket Road, Riverland, Highway 174, and our live oak grand trees along other roads vulnerable to the unknown priorities of current and future county councils. As I speculate why County Council is working so hard to gain control over this process, I worry. This seems to be about County Council wanting to prioritize expedience and speed over the live oak grand trees and our scenic highways. I don't want to lose these beautiful roads that are so much a part of the unique character of the Low Country. I don't think we as a community ever agreed to that. Our comprehensive plan, which you guys are reviewing right now, mentions that we should have broad public participation in decision-making and open coordination with the community. That's not happened. Please recommend to leave this decision-making with the BZA. Thank you for listening.
Emma Berry.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to address the Commission. My name is Emma Berry, and I serve as the Project Manager for the Communities and Transportation Program of the Coastal Conservation League, located at 131 Spring Street. The Conservation League has extensive concerns regarding the proposed amendments to the Tree Protection and Preservation Ordinance. As proposed, these amendments would allow Charleston County Public Works to bypass the review of grand tree removals at the Board of Zoning Appeals, removing a necessary level of independent oversight in the decision-making process. If approved, these exemptions would lead to the loss of hundreds of mature trees along current and future Charleston County roadways. When these amendments were first brought before your commission this past October, the vote was unanimous to recommend denial. Since then, it has become abundantly clear that the citizens of Charleston County oppose these amendments as well. Thousands of citizens have signed a community petition, hundreds have submitted letters, and dozens have spoken out at meetings. In response to public opposition, Charleston County has incorporated some very minor changes to these amendments before us today. However, they fall short of alleviating the concerns of the Conservation League and the broader Charleston County community. For starters, the elimination of independent oversight and public input from the tree removal process for public works is highly concerning. Without the necessary checks and balances in place, how can we expect our local government to function democratically? If the BZA is not the right answer, Charleston County should establish a tree board to evaluate proposals for grand tree removals like the town of Somerville does. Simply removing independent oversight is irresponsible. And while the addition of some mitigation is better than no mitigation, the proposed amendments that will require Public Works to pay into the county tree fund does not come close to rectifying the loss of centuries-old trees along our roadways. The money from the tree fund can be used all throughout the county. If substantial tree canopy is lost in an area from road projects by Public Works, then the mitigation for the tree removal should occur in the same area. And lastly, when asked, Public Works has not been able to provide a single example of tree removal request being denied in the last 2 decades. It's become clear that this is an effort to literally clear the way for future road projects like Main Road Segment C and the 526 extension. For these reasons, the Coastal Conservation League strongly encourages the Planning Commission to once again vote to recommend denial of these amendments. The trees of Charleston County add character and cultural significance to our low country. We must do everything in our power to strengthen protections of these trees rather than weaken them. Thank you for your time and for your service to the citizens of Charleston County.
David Quick.
Hi, my name is David Quick. I live at 1502 Village Square in Mount Pleasant. I'd like to echo all the specifics that have been given so far and would like to speak more generally about tree protection in Charleston County. We're losing a lot of trees. We need more tree protections, not less. The county definitely needs to abide by its own rules. And as far as saying there's exceptions for grand live oaks, I think diversity is important in both our human population and in our tree canopy. So please stand firm. We've been through this a lot already. We've been showing up at meetings. I think the sentiments of the residents of Charleston County are clear. We want to protect more trees, not less trees. Thank you.
Curtis Mitchell.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. My name is Curtis Mitchell, 3608 Wild Plum Road, Johns Island, South Carolina. I'm a Charleston native and have now lived on Johns Island for about 10 years. As a resident, I would like to make note of my opposition towards any exemption of county-led tree removal projects. My main objection would be towards the huge negative environmental impact that less oversight could potentially cause. With less regulation and a less stringent approval process, the potential for developmental dollar signs will undoubtedly overshadow our beautiful low country ecosystems. I also echo a lot of the sentiment and the specifics concerned, and just from a logical standpoint, I didn't know about the tree removal process, but if you remove something from a general location and it goes to another one, just is not doesn't really do what it is intended to do. So, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Belvin Olasoff.
Hello, Belvin Olasoff, 428 Ray Street, Charleston. I'm here in my capacity as director of the Charleston Climate Coalition. As a climate action organization, our goal is for a truly considerate and accessible process for deciding when and how our government cuts down trees, as they are an essential resource for carbon drawdown and essential protection against the worst effects of climate change, from flooding to extreme heat. I believe the ZLDR amendments, as they stand, will make the process less considerate and less accessible. What has been added back into the amendments does nothing to address the removal of independent oversight and the lack of public notice and opportunity for public involvement. The continued public interest in these amendments is the result of distrust over the stewardship of our trees. We should be working to strengthen our stewardship and not weaken it. I'd like to echo the call for, if the BZA is not the proper body, there's a reason that we're hosting it with the body. We're sending these things to an independent body. A tree protection board a la Somerville that has these requirements for having a certain number of arborists, forestry, and horticulture experts would make a lot of sense, I think. And furthermore, anything that goes through, I think, cannot go through without public notice and opportunity for public comment, because that's really what's being stripped out here, is opportunity for the public to just know what's happening, to weigh in. That's an essential part of the process, I think. Thank you so much.
Samantha Siegel.
Hello. Sorry. My name is Samantha Siegel. I live at 5 Lalandra Avenue, Charleston, 29407. Get this. It won't stay put. Okay, can you all hear me now? I want to first thank you all for your thoughtful review of this issue in the past, and I am here again, as many other people are, to voice my concerns and recommendations regarding the tree removal process in our community. So I want to mostly echo what you've heard before. There are opportunities for improvement here, and the updated amendment does not go far enough. I think the most important issue here is public transparency, and to ensure that transparency and public engagement, I would recommend that if the BZA is taken out of the process, then County Council adopt a similar process where the public can review the site plans and all of the details in advance without having to file a Freedom of Information Act. The second issue was mitigation, and I don't want to repeat what everyone said before, but again, just like wetland mitigation, if you fill in wetlands somewhere on Johns Island and then you put money into a mitigation bank somewhere else, nothing is going to be done to help the environment where those wetlands were filled in. So I would recommend that tree replacement is done in the area where it was taken out. Again, thank you all for listening to us again, and yeah, thank you.
Okay, does Robert McCombs want to speak? I can't tell whether he checked the speaker's box or not.
I didn't, but I will. My name's Robert McCombs. I supervise the Charleston Trees program with the Charleston Parks Conservancy. It's my first meeting, so I was kind of seeing what this whole thing was about. I agree with the sentiments that have already been made. If you're going to remove a tree in a place, it needs to go back there. It takes trees about 30, 40 years to get a return on investment. Before that, it's a commitment on our part. After that, the tree does itself. So every live oak that is 400 years old, 300 years old. It's been given back for 275, 375 years. So we should really keep in mind when we remove one of those that what we put back is going to be there in 400 years. So remove a tree from a place, we need to make sure we put it back, and we need to make sure that it's going to stay there instead of planting a tree, leaving a tree, and hoping it does well. That would be my recommendation. Thank you all for your time.
Is there any discussion from commission members or any questions for the staff? Pete, didn't you have some questions for the? Okay. Susan?
I would love to make some comments. I was not on the commission for the original discussion in October, but I think that there's some ideas that probably bear repeating. As you all know, in the opening statements to the Tree Protection and Preservation Ordinance, it makes clear how important our iconic trees are to the Low Country. Mature trees can absorb up to 40,000 gallons a year in rainwater. Their canopies slow the rate of at which the rain hits the ground, allowing for infiltration and less flooding. They serve to cool our warming atmosphere. They are a beautiful and a treasured part of this area. We don't just need to protect our natural environment for nature's sake. We now know that we must protect our natural environment for humans' sake. In this time of increasingly strong storms, we've had 2 major flooding rain events just in the last month. Every tree that we don't cut down helps the resiliency of our environment. With so much time, energy, and money being spent by the city, the county, and the state on resiliency plans, how does it make any sense to weaken the tree protection ordinance by removing the additional oversight of the BZA? If we remove BZA oversight, we then leave the decision of the protection of trees to the folks whose main job it is to build roads, and to our county council. And county council, perhaps today's council, perhaps a future council, may have members whose personal economic interests are tied to ever more development and thus more roads. Perhaps there are or will be council members who believe that all growth is inherently good. But we have heard from the voters, both in this discussion of tree protection and in our discussions on the comp plan, that the kind of rapid development that this area has experienced is not what they want to see. We have heard from the voters that they do not want to weaken the tree protections that are currently in place. We have also heard from staff that the oversight of the BZA for public works projects has rarely, if ever, stopped a project. And to my mind, this has not created an undue burden on the Public Works Department. As with respects to tree mitigation, those programs do not recognize the drastic difference between the water uptake of mature trees versus young ones. Nor does tree mitigation recognize the effects of the difference in canopy effects on the environment between mature trees and young trees. People seem to think that an inch-for-inch replacement of trees makes it all okay, but that is a false equivalency. And there are dramatically different effects on the environment from mature trees versus young trees. I am against weakening the tree protection ordinance by removing the oversight by the BCA. If we continue as a commission, as a council, as the BZA, to cut down these grand trees one by one, it is death by 1,000 cuts. I urge this commission and I urge county council to vote no to this amendment. Thank you.
Luke, did you have some?
I was going to ask if Joel or council can share, mention that litigation led to an order that required these changes, and I didn't know if y'all could share any background to that.
So the litigation that resulted several years ago was with the DOT versus the county when we, county staff, were enforcing the tree protection ordinance in regard to DOT projects. This, that's in number 3 of the amendments. Number 4 is separate from the DOT because the Charleston County Public Works Department has a half-cent sales tax program charged with designing and building roads. Those would not fall under the DOT purview. Those are Charleston County projects. So that's why has been and continues to be a separation from DOT and Public Works, and both the previous ordinance and the proposed one.
Pete.
Joel, you mentioned someone from Public Works is here. Is that correct?
Yes, Devery Tatoma.
So I've got a couple questions about the process of Public Works.
Sure.
Um,
Okay, so first of all, I do want to explain, this just isn't for highways. This is, as y'all know, Charleston does flood bad. There are a lot of trees in our ditches and our drainage easements. We cannot maintain these ditches with these trees in them. So we've had a couple instances lately where we've taken to the BZA trees within ditches so we can address the flooding, because a lot of times you're either looking at a large tree and a drainage easement. You'll either have to take this house or you take the tree or you don't fix the flooding. So I do want to add that this isn't just about highways. It's not about fixing safety issues. It's also about flooding as well.
What I wanted to ask about were the projects. I know there are some projects that Public Works does where you guys have a virtual public forum, you seek input. I believe the Public Works website has several, most of them are road projects, Highway 41, the redesign of Savannah Highway. What's the criteria how do you determine which projects receive public input at your level?
So it's usually what we consider the larger feature projects where we have to go through the long environmental process. Typically, it's either through the Army Corps of Engineers or FHWA, depending if it's NEPA or depending on the environmental governing agency. All of those larger ones require a public hearing at some point in time. Sometimes they're done by the environmental agency, sometimes they're done by us. They do not typically get into the number of trees. They do look into environmental factors, but to the extent that we would show council, the BZA, the public, we do provide that information or try to at public hearings to show the number of trees within the corridor that could be impacted. We do that. A lot of times we'll work with our planning folks whenever we have a road that needs to be improved because it's impassable. We'll have a road and we'll have trees on the side, so we can't cut ditches. So a lot of times we try to use pervious pavement to avoid having to cut ditches to save these trees. I have one project right now where I'm putting a drain in the middle of the road to prevent having to take down trees. So we're very mindful of the trees as much as we can be. Again, we're not a developer here to clear cut trees. We're here doing these projects so people can get home for safety and to address flooding. So we do always gather input from planning where we can to see what the best alternative. Unfortunately, yes, if we widen roads, sometimes you have to take a tree. We always look at ways to save those trees, which would be presented to the BZA and or council, depending how this went, where we'll build a median in the middle to preserve those trees. So we do look at ways to do that. But if you're talking about the public process, the number of trees exactly to be impacted necessarily would not be part of that process.
Is that something you could add to a process where if you have a project that is going to impact one of these protected trees, that an online forum, public input process, maybe an overlay showing the impact and the mitigation could be disclosed?
So it would be by the time we go to the public, when we are whittling down our alternatives that we look at, we'll have a swath and a corridor, and yes, we'll show these trees could be impacted. However, it would be difficult at that stage to say this is the exact number, but we could show a very high level concept on how we were going to try to preserve those trees and give the public a very good overview of how many trees are in that area and the ones that we are trying to avoid. We could do that, but we would not have a necessarily defined number until we had final design plans.
But is there anything in your process that you go through that would require you to have a hearing or give that information?
We would be going to limited site plan review as part of these zoning changes, which that would have it in there, correct, Joel? But that wouldn't be for the
Correct.
public.
So as part of the limited, that would be the reason for the limited site plan review process, is to identify the route of the road that would be, or drainage easement that would be shown, and to show all of the protected trees that would need to be either mitigated administratively through staff if it's a non-live oak species of grand tree, or if it's one of the other categories on a scenic road or a live oak species. That's the purpose of the limited site plan review process, to identify that.
Okay, but does that guarantee public input or public oversight input?
Well, no, that's all at a staff level, so that would be required to be shown on plans to staff. And then whatever process that Public Works goes through out in the public to relay to the public the road, the ultimate road or alternatives of the road alignment that are being shown, that would be part of what Public Works does in their process.
Okay, well, I'm looking for a mechanism that sets up that procession of events.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I don't have a question. I have a suggestion. I think the Johns Island Task Force is a good starting point, and I like their recommendations for insertion. I suppose one thing that I would say I would change, previously discussed, I would have liked to have seen not the latitude as suggested, but that the trees definitely be planted to replace those that are removed. But from talking to staff, it seems that there's not enough room to plant trees and be in accordance with ordinances, so it may not be possible to do all of those things. But just looking at the sentence here, I would remove the sentence that you've suggested. To the greatest extent possible, the replacement trees shall be planted in the same general area. Let's take out general, because if you're going to be planting something and you don't have the space, extent possible defines that. However, assuming that was acceptable, I still feel uneasy about the latitude given to council for mitigation. And as Ms. Cox suggested, maybe the BZA could be inserted there. I don't know, that's just a suggestion, but I would move that we accept generally the recommendations as proposed by the Johns Island Task Force. Do I need to make a motion? I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Well, wait a minute, I just want to say what generally means. You said generally so when you say
Can you
generally.
read into the record what you're?
Okay, bear with me. I shall read the whole of the paragraph and then what is to be inserted, okay? Section 92194B, protected trees located on the scenic highway and live oak species of grand trees may be approved for removal by Charleston County Council as part of the CCPW initiated road or drainage project. The suggestion insertion, the public shall be provided with details of the proposed tree removals and mitigation of at least 1 week prior to a public hearing, which shall occur prior to County Council taking up the tree removal requests. That is Section 921. There's another 2 paragraphs. Section 921B4D, protected trees located on a scenic highway that are impacted within CCPW road projects shall be mitigated pursuant to Section 926 tree replacement. The insertion. To the greatest extent possible, the replacement trees shall be planted in the same area to provide a replacement tree canopy. A tree mitigation plan shall be provided as part of the County Council approval process. And the final, Section 921B4E, grand trees that are impacted with CCPW road projects shall be mitigated pursuant to Section 926, tree replacement. The insertion, to the greatest extent possible, the replacement trees shall be planted in the same area to provide a replacement tree canopy. A tree mitigation plan shall be provided as part of the County Council approval process. Stop.
And so since you'd already made a motion to approve, is that an amendment to your original motion?
Well, that was just clarification. When he said general, so.
Okay.
Okay, so what are you asking of me?
So what we're trying.
Before we started the public
Oh,
comment.
my comment was,
Okay.
so the,
Wait, before we started the public comments, you made a motion for approval.
right.
And it was seconded.
And it was seconded,
So I'm amending the original motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Okay, so where are we? Luke?
I had a quick question for you as well, because what I can't wrap my head around, because I can speculate, but it doesn't seem like removing, so if I remember correctly from our last meeting about this, that Public Works was requesting this because BZA could be an expensive and onerous process for your projects, but it didn't seem like that was generally the case, and you'd have to request permission from somebody, whether it's BZA or or county council, if you were to adopt this change. But it seems like BZA would allow additional public input. Seems to be one of the only changes that this would enforce, right? So I don't see what's the ultimate purpose. Why does Public Works want this instead of having to go through BZA? Does this benefit the people of Charleston County to adopt going through county council instead of BZA first?
So it is a timely thing. So we have to, of course, and money. We have to pay the consultant to help us, or if we prepare it in-house, go into the BZA. Again, this is for ditches and stuff like that. One thing for our highway projects, I would say, we spend millions and millions of taxpayers' money acquiring right-of-way. We have to acquire all that right-of-way before we can come to the BZA, or either we have to have, because we're going to acquire those properties. So that is that's a big stopping block for us, because we acquire all this right-of-way, millions of dollars, then have to go to the BZA to risk being told no for this project that we've been working on for years, acquiring right-of-way for years. Just to be told no, and then you possibly risk, council maybe suing the BZA or vice versa, which isn't good for anyone. It costs time and money to get these projects done. These projects take way longer than I think anyone would like for them as is. So that is one reason why.
So if this were adopted, you wouldn't have to purchase the land or these right-of-ways before going to county council?
Correct.
Okay, and then the second part is you mentioned council potentially suing BZA or vice versa. Has that ever happened?
I do not know. Has that happened, Joel?
It has happened.
Okay.
How often?
Frequently.
Too often. No, there was a recent case, I think that it was a Point Farm. I think there was am I correct, Mark? Yes. That's the only one I can actually remember, so.
Okay. Susan?
Just one more question. You mentioned that there was a risk that you would acquire property for right-of-way and then have that nixed by BZA. How many times has that happened?
Well, we look back again, I think we look back 10 years and we have not found where it has happened in the last 10 years.
I rest my case.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so there was Warwick's
Motion
amendment.
hasn't been seconded.
Right. Okay, so Kent seconded it. Any other discussion, comments?
I guess I just want to clarify.
Logan, okay.
I just want to clarify this. So we're going to approve it, the council will make the decision, but it has to kind of follow the way the BZA presents it ahead of time?
It also have to be defined in section 926, tree replacement.
Okay. But, so it's going to be taken out of the hands of the BZA. Council will have it, but they have to provide notices to like the BZA?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'd be a hearing with notice, with a proper notice, yeah. And they'd have to provide the materials at least 5 days ahead.
Okay.
For the information. Logan, did you have something else you wanted?
Yeah, my only issue is kind of more technical on the area, the location. I think you kind of need a broader sense. I agree it needs to be in the same locale, I think somebody mentioned, but if we just leave it as the same spot, that's essentially, you could interpret that as where the tree was pulled out, another tree would have to go there. Otherwise, it's not applicable if you can't put it back exactly where it was. So I kind of like the term general location, I think as it was initially proposed, but.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that. Like, again, we took one recently where it's a tree and a ditch. So you're not going to put it back, and you're not going to put it in a maintenance shelf where you have to drive equipment up and down to maintain that ditch.
But I think what we're trying to prevent with this language is that, you know, you don't take a ditch out on James Island and then mitigate it in Mount Pleasant.
Right. And that would be similar to what they require with wetlands, like someone he said.
I hear your point, and I really don't disagree strongly. You just said, my understanding was that sometimes the width of the right-of-way isn't large enough to even contemplate putting back a tree, a grand tree or whatever, in the space. Some areas, I understand it is possible, in other areas it isn't. What I was trying to suggest in my amendment, it wasn't really going against what Johns Island had said, it was just being more specific. Okay, in the general area, fine, but if you have the space, then where you've taken out a grand tree, put back there another grand tree. So it's really not opposed to what you're saying. It's trying to be more defining.
Well, you're not going to replace a grand tree with another grand tree.
Well, okay, but you're more that.
Potential grand
Yes,
tree.
yes, okay. Picky.
Sorry.
So,
Sorry,
so
does that-
how is it defined again? Could you, so we understand, where is the location? How do we decide the location on that?
That's where the tree, where,
The general location?
I don't know, can you define a general location?
I don't know. That's,
I think
And
it's
how
all
many-
going to be relative
Yeah, right.
to whatever the project is and the situation. Like Devery described, if it's a drainage easement, you're not going to plant a tree anywhere in that easement because they have, as Devery described, they have to have a shelf, they have to keep the drainage ditch open. Roadways are a little bit different. If the right-of-way is wide enough and it's, there's a certain distance from the edge of pavement to a tree, that is proper per the arms manual to be planted. If one can fit and meet the arms manual, then I think that Public Works would probably be open to allowing that tree to be planted, so.
I mean, we have a motion on the floor, but I have a feeling this isn't going to be the last that we hear of this. It seems like a potential scope issue. So you're talking about, well, we have projects where a tree is in a ditch and we need to get rid of that tree. I mean, that seems reasonable, but it could be something as like, we need to expand this road and take out potentially thousands of trees. So I feel like in general, most people will be okay from a maintenance standpoint, or for smaller projects, I think it's a scope issue that more leniency or breadth of operation to Public Works to maintain existing items, but not give carte blanche for potentially massive projects. So in case this fails, that could be a recommendation moving forward. But we'll vote on the motion on the floor.
All right. Any,
I don't think it,
Adam?
sorry.
Did you?
I don't really have any objection. It was just more a suggestion. Put back general area rather than delete the general, and if that makes everybody happy, fine.
You okay with that, Ken?
sure. Adam?
That's the intention of the mitigation plan itself, is that if it's feasible or reasonable to do so, they would put them back there. And if they can't, then that's when they would pay into that fund, right? And so it's just not clear to me with the amendments that were made, if we're actually solving a problem at this point. If we're actually solving the problem that was here originally, and whether or not we're complicating a process, overcomplicating a process that has a simpler solution. So it's hard for me.
I think we're just trying to put in a process.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard for me to support that without being able to sit down and read what actually the language is, because that's where we're getting hung up on some of these things. So it's going to be hard for me to support that until I can actually see it personally.
Pass it on down.
Yeah, I think that what Warwick was reading from, Adam, was what was suggested by the Johns Island Task Force as a proposed changes. Was that given to all the members before? Okay, yeah. So, yeah, that wasn't something that was created new. That was something that was part of the packet. Yeah.
I guess in that case, I would like some feedback from Public Works on their thoughts about how those amendments may affect the process, if you have any.
So I would have to, I have not looked into that, so I would have to see that. As well as our director and a couple of other folks, staff members.
I guess my concern mostly is that, yes, the protection of trees is vitally important to the cultural and historical, aspects of our community. And also, we desperately need infrastructure projects done, and they're taking decades and running 2 to 3 times the budgets they originally are intended for, costing taxpayers money because we're running into these hangups. And so I want to believe that Public Works is taking reasonable and customary measures to reduce the potential impacts, and that we have this mitigation process. I want to trust that those will be used in a way that is responsible. And I know that my opinion is that we can't save every tree. We're not going to save every tree. And those we can't, we'll mitigate. And we need to make it easy for Public Works and other entities to deliver these projects to the public. Otherwise, we're going to continue to fall behind. And that's where we hear a lot of complaints. That's
my understanding is that this is going to simplify things, but because they don't have to buy the property before they get the approval, they can go to county council instead. So before they can go to the BZA, they had to actually buy the property. Mm-hmm. But they can go to county council before the property is actually purchased. But I still think there needs to be a public process so the public knows what's going on. And this sets that and that's what the intent of this is, I believe.
I'm just trying to understand as you go through the design process of a major project, right? You go through a 30% design, you have some idea you have a couple of trees, these may or may come out, they may or may not come out. Eventually, at some point, that project doesn't go forward until you get funding from county council to do it. And then you don't know what the potential impacts are until way later down the road. So I feel like these requirements, although well-intended, don't meet the flow of the way in which a major transportation project happens. And so my preference is to get some feedback from Public Works regarding how we can streamline the process and also provide as much protection to the environment as we can. And I don't know that we have that in this document now currently as amended. That's one of my concerns.
Any further discussion? Are we procedurally where we can ask for the roll call? Okay. Okay. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Logan Davis.
And to be clear, we're voting on this motion here.
Warwick's
Yes.
amendment.
Yes, with the amendments and the word general back in.
Okay. Aye.
Okay. Chair Floyd.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner Kent.
Aye.
Commissioner McConnell.
No.
Commissioner Morris.
Nay.
Vice Chair Pilatos.
Aye.
Commissioner Cox?
No.
The ayes have it.
These amendments will be heard again by the Planning and Public Works Committee at their January 25th, 2024 meeting, and will receive first reading at the January 30th, 2024 County Council meeting. The next agenda item is the proposed forward to the draft of the comprehensive plan, 5-year review. Any questions for Commissioner Jones from commission members?
So what are we talking about? Oh, that. Yes.
Well, we asked if anybody had any questions for you.
I just wanted to say that in our correspondence, Commissioner Jones and I determined that it was unlikely that we were to agree. So what you have in front of you are Commissioner Jones's suggestion for the forward.
Okay. Public comment?
I don't think there's anybody that signed up for that.
Okay. It doesn't look like anybody signed up for public comment on Mr. Jones's proposed forward. Any discussion or questions, Adam?
Yeah, I appreciate the efforts that went into this. I did take a shot at making some edits, although the format that we received it in was an uneditable format. I did end up typing up some things. I have not submitted it yet because I haven't had enough time to go through my own review process. My preference with this sort of preamble is that we stick to the facts as closely as we can rather than opinions, as I think that that's where there may be some dispute. And I think that if we can do a better job of still stating the concerns that we've addressed and the information we compile from the public without editorializing that and just stating them as matters of fact, I think that will provide a cleaner document for the future. That's sort of my thinking on that. And so I made an attempt to clean that up with this language. Once I get a chance to look at it, I'll resubmit it to the chair, I guess, or someone to take a look at, whoever needs to take a look at it.
Staff.
Staff.
You know, may I? Well, I make no apology. I suppose I wrote it as I saw it, and I guess it included some of my views, and Ms. Cox and I disagreed, and maybe you would prefer her style. I didn't, but it's your choice. My nose will be only slightly out of joint if you reject it, but nevertheless is already out of joint, so nothing's lost. But I make no apology. I think I tried to point out the differences, and I don't know if you stick to fact, it's going to sort of just, well, I won't say a dull document, but there are differences in the community, and I put them down. And maybe you don't like it. Okay, so let's cross it. But I still think there should be some forward or some attempt to put some dynamism into the comprehensive plan, which I think is lacking. And Mr. McConnell may have some good suggestions. He may do whatever you want, and you may approve it, whatever. But that's it. Can I say, I'm surprised at the lack of comment. If you don't like it, guys, say it.
Is it time for a motion?
I appreciate the effort. I guess I'm in that camp that I think the comprehensive plan, there seems to be an effort to want to condense it and to make it brief. It is comprehensive. I'm just not sure, I'm not sold that a forward is needed to the document.
So do we need a motion?
It depends on what the council wants to do.
Is there a motion?
Do we want to defer it and at least give Mr. McConnell a chance to submit his?
Yeah.
Okay. So your motion, you're moving to defer it until?
I'd move to defer it and at least.
Just discussion still. One thing we never said is the length. I think my effort may be too long, but I think it helps if people would say how long it should be. I think maybe it should be no more than 1 page for the comprehensive plan.
I think that would be a little tight, but
I beg your
haven't
pardon?
attempted it.
Sorry, say that again?
I said I think that might be a little too small, but I haven't attempted it, but, so anyway.
Okay.
All right, so the motion, is there a second for the deferral? Has it been
Second.
second? Okay. All right, so any other discussion about whether we should defer this to the next meeting, or should we, a future meeting? Or there isn't, the next meeting would be March, right? Okay. So do we need language in there as to when it's deferred to?
Well, we just wanted to make sure you all are aware that we're not going to slow up the comprehensive plan process. So it will still be on track to go to the February 13th public hearing. If and when a forward is recommended by Planning Commission, it will be done as an amendment to the comprehensive plan in the future. And also, just to let you know, you don't have any cases for February, and your next meeting is going to be the March meeting, which will be your annual meeting where we're all for training and a sandwich. So it would be good if maybe, unless you want to have a meeting in February just for the purposes of the forward, or if you want to hold off until March.
So it's just a general deferral?
So there's no meeting in,
Well, we haven't gotten to that part yet, but there are no cases.
There are no cases for February.
So first, motion and second for
Okay.
deferral. I guess the question
Okay, the
is-
motion on the,
I think to the next meeting, that way if we haven't
Okay.
held.
Yeah, there you go.
can I make a comment? Just to save time, if people don't want to forward, can we decide now, because there's going to be time wasted preparing this? So I think there should be a vote of whether people want to forward or not.
I thought we decided that last.
Well, I know, but there seems to be more reticent.
Okay, so you're, okay.
I'd be happy to make that motion, but I know we have one on the floor.
I know, it's like. Well, did anybody make Adam made the motion to defer, no?
No.
Okay, is there a motion on the?
No, I did. I'll withdraw that.
I'll withdraw the second.
Okay, all right,
And I'll
so,
make the motion to strike a forward.
okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Call the roll.
Commissioner Logan Davis. Chair Floyd.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
Nay. Nay.
Commissioner Kent.
Aye.
Commissioner McConnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Morris. Vice Chair Pilatos. And Commissioner Cox.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
The next agenda item is an update regarding the 2023 subdivision applications.
Is my name on
Tamara.
Tamara Avery's she's our subdivision planner, and she's gonna give an overview. We're gonna do this annually at least. And she's gonna give an overview of the subdivision applications we've had in 2023. So give everybody an idea of the amount of growth that's going on in the county, as if you need a reminder.
Does the county do these, or they just got information from them? Who does? Is somebody taking off today? Audio visual staff on vacation?
Thanks, ladies. Hi, so I'm Tamara Avery. I'm over the subdivision division of planning and zoning. And we have Matthew Hussman. He's also a planner with subdivision. And then our admin, who's not here, Sharon Lynn. and we make up the subdivision area. So who do we review for? We review for the unincorporated Charleston County parcels. That's anybody that's not within a municipality within Charleston County. We review for the town of Ravenel. We review for the town of James Island if it's over 4 lots, because anything over 4 lots is considered a major subdivision for the town. And we review for the town of Rockville. What types of plats do we review? We review exempt plats, and I'll go into detail on what that incorporates in just a second. Minor subdivisions are now 4 lots or less. Major subdivisions, they have a preliminary plat process, a conditional plat, and that has an asterisk because remember when we did the ordinance revisions, we took out conditional plats for kind of unilateral across the board. However, there are some developers that still have it within their development agreement, like Kiowa River, that they can do conditional plats. So we still have that. It's just not available for everything. And then major subdivision final plats. So an exempt plat, it is consistent. It could be a boundary survey, property line adjustment, easement reestablishment, or reestablish a property line. Let's say you go and you abandon a property line and then 2 years later you want to reestablish it. That has to be platted. What's the purpose of this? It's because all of our plats, once we approve it, go to the Register of Deeds for recording. Once it leaves the Register of Deeds, it goes to the mapping department for the assessor's office, and then the assessor's office will make any changes to the GIS overlay, and then also for the assessor's office purposes of, for tax purposes. A minor subdivision is 4 lots or less. The access to a minor subdivision can be an ingress-egress easement. That is a 20-foot wide ingress-egress easement. It's minimum width, and they go straight to final plat. So the difference between a major subdivision and a minor subdivision is majors, you have to have all infrastructure in place before the final plat can be recorded. Minors, you just have to prove that the utilities are available. And what do we look for minor subdivisions? We verify the zoning of the parcel, the density of the parcel, to make sure that the number of lots proposed can be created. We verify if there are any grand trees, buildable area, setbacks, does it have legal access, water, sewer, to make sure they're a viable lot if anyone were to purchase it and want to develop it. Also, y'all are familiar with the revision in the ordinance that wetlands no longer count towards density. So we make sure that the minimum lot size of the parcels is actually for the acreage is highland, not just wetlands. So they have to meet that requirement. Now moving forward. Major subdivisions are 5 lots or more. The access to a major subdivision, that was also another change in the ordinance. It has to meet secondary county road standards. It used to be that it had to be a 50-foot wide right-of-way. Now we have it be a 50-foot right-of-way but meet secondary county road standards. And that is reviewed by our Public Works Department to make sure it meets their planning specifications. And major subdivisions start in preliminary plat. Once a preliminary plat gets approved, then they have a time period to install all the infrastructure and get their final closeouts done, and then they can submit the final plat for approval. And that the final plat is what gets recorded at the Register of Deeds office. So here's kind of the process for a major subdivision. You start with a preliminary plat, stormwater approval. We try to work parallel now with the stormwater department. We require that they get their conditional approval from stormwater before we approve the preliminary plat. Then once they have the conditional approval and final approval with stormwater, preliminary plat approval, and they show that they have all other jurisdictional permits, we release the clearing and grubbing permit let me back up. We approve the construction drawings. Then our arborist goes out and does a tree barricade inspection to make sure it meets the construction plan designs. And then we release the clearing and grubbing or zoning permit to be issued. And that's when they can start turning dirt and putting in infrastructure. So kind of where are we at? We left calendar year 2020 to calendar year 2023. So you can see we exceeded a little bit from last year. We had 340 applications. This year we had 351 applications. And I want to say that's a little misleading because 351 applications, Matthew does the bulk of this. We get revisions. So it's not just that we had 351 applications. We could have had 351 applications times 3 revisions per application. So that is a lot of reviews. And that also includes part of the 340 from 2022 calendar year that didn't get approved, and it spilled over into 2023. So it's a lot of reviews, a lot of work going on. And this just kind of shows you the breakdown. It looks like minor subdivisions kind of exceeded exempt this year. And for major subdivisions, this is just kind of an idea of what we have in the process, what's under construction. So as of right now, we have about 1,325 lots in the review process. And those are just kind of the project names. Obviously, the large bulk of it is for the town of Ravenel. They have the Golden Grove project, which is a development agreement we review for the town of Ravenel, but it's going to be about close to 400 units. And then they have the Tea Farm development that's about 400 units. They've reviewed, and we're kind of in the review comment process for that. And then the one project for the town of James Island that's considered a major subdivision is 12 lots. And then the second category, it's everything that's been approved for preliminary plat that is currently under construction. So those 430 lots, once the infrastructure is in place and they have all their closeouts, they'll submit for final plat, and we'll record that at the Register of Deeds. And just to recap, we had 351 applications. We had 51 pre-application meetings with the public. 219 plats were recorded at the Register of Deeds, and 352 new lots were created in Charleston County. And that's all I have. If you have any questions.
Facts speak for themselves. A lot going on. Looks like y'all are really busy over there.
Thank you for your hard work.
A lot of it's Matthew, so I will say we really do appreciate him.
Sydney?
Could I just make a comment? It reminded me, and I was meaning to say it, but statistics came out a week or so ago from the Census Bureau, and it was the net inflow of population in the United States, all of the states. And South Carolina wasn't the top state in total numbers, but in terms of percentage gains, it was way in front. The population in the roughly 3 years to, I think, July 1 this year was 4.8%. That's a 3-year gain, which is really very significant. It was the number one of all of the U.S. states.
Yikes. Still not moving to Florida. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We did not receive any complete applications for the February 12th, 2024 meeting, so would the commission like to cancel the February meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner
I'm
Logan
going to be
Davis.
ornery. No.
Chair Floyd.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
You dare me?
Yeah, your name.
No.
Commissioner.
I thought it
No.
was your motion.
Commissioner Kent.
Yay.
Commissioner McConnell. Commissioner Morris.
Yes.
Vice Chair Pilatos.
Aye.
And Commissioner Cox.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
There we go. All right, and then we're going to have the March meeting is on March 11th, beginning at noon, because
Sandwich.
And election.
And elections.
and elections. Well, it's going to be.
And then you'll have
busy.
your regular meeting.
Yeah, okay. Is anything else we need to do? So the regular meeting will still begin at 2 in March?
Correct.
Okay, all right. All right, there being no further business, the meeting of the Charleston County Planning Commission stands adjourned. We will hold our next scheduled meeting on March 11th, 2024 at noon, and then for continuing education, and then at 2 for the regular meeting.